Suella Braverman, did you see that she's been in a spot of bother? Because she sent this email basically to Tory supporters, or it's alleged that she sent it, had her name on the bottom anyway, saying that an activist blob of left-wing lawyers, civil servants and the Labour Party basically are trying to come together to stop the government making any inroads to stopping the Channel crossing. She basically says that she didn't know about this email, it wasn't her signature and all the rest of it. Anyway, calls now saying that she is basically in the wrong. She's breached this and that or the other. One of the unions, one of the heads of the unions is basically, he's saying he wants this investigation. It's told civil servants to make sure that they have kind of security precautions and all the rest of it. It's all getting a bit ridiculous if you ask me. But anyway, do you think she had a point?
Well, she may have had a point, but she didn't actually make it, because let's be absolutely clear, this email was sent out as a mass email by Conservative campaign headquarters, Conservative central office, as we used to call it. They put her name on it. They had no right to do so. They did not have her permission. She didn't know about it. Those are the facts, and nobody has actually disputed those facts.
Do you believe that?
I do believe that.
Do you?
Because, I certainly believe that.
Because don't you think it sounds a little bit sort of backlash
separate.
and then saying,
No. I totally believe that. And that's the sort of way I'm afraid that central office, I can easily imagine them doing that. And they should be looking at what they did and, I think, apologising because they misrepresented her views. So that's the first thing, that's the fact. But then the question is, if she had made the point, would she have had a point to make? And I think it's undoubtedly the case that there are serious concerns about the impartiality of the civil service. We have the Sue Gray affair. There's still no account from Starmer of when he started talking with her. They've both gone stum on that, when we're entitled to know. We've got the fact that the Permanent Secretary of the Home Office is reported today in the papers having written round to his civil servants saying it's their job to challenge ministers. It's their job to work for ministers, by the way, not to challenge ministers necessarily. And they've got to challenge ministers, and you've got the trades unions representing the staff in the Home Office, not for the first time, threatening or actually taking the government to court over policies formulated by a democratically elected government. So my question is, who do these people think they are?
Do you know how many people there are? Do you know how many employees are in the civil service in the UK?
I think about 250,000.
How many do you think?
I should know, but I don't, Michelle. 300,000?
How many do you think at home? I'll give you the answer a bit later on. How many people do you think are employed by the civil service in the UK? He says 500,000. What do you say?
250.
No, double that.
You said
double that.
250,000.
So you're saying quarter, you're saying 250. What do you think?
500,000 upwards.
Well, there you go. That's your little test. I'll give you the answer a bit later on. And don't Google it, by the way. I don't like a cheat. Anyway, what do you make to the whole email? Do you think she's right to say that the civil servants are stifling, blocking the government's plans?
No, I mean, look, I'm going to try and take things in good faith that, you know, if she says she didn't sign it off and it was someone in Tory HQ, then I like to take people in good faith and I'll accept that. But this is... You know, the reason people get upset about it is because the recent leaked WhatsApp show what some Tory cabinet members say in private, right? I think you remember this week, Gavin Williamson, these teachers are always looking for an excuse to be lazy. So this speculation feeds that kind of mentality. And I think we have to be quite careful about saying the civil service is partial and not neutral, because the civil service, I think, is something we should be proud of as a country.
I'd like to be.
Yeah. And I think they contain... In fact, I know they contain people of all political persuasions. And their job is... They challenged the Labour government of the 97 to 2010. They challenge ministers to make good decisions. They test it. You know, they push them. But at the end of the day, the civil service knows they have to execute the programme of the elected government. And I think some of this, the blob and lefty lawyers, is this government trying to distract people from its incompetence.
Incompetence?
Well, I don't think that's actually what's happening. I think that we've had 6 years come out, especially over Brexit, but it could have come out over other things. And we've seen, in my view, a collection of people, including very often leading civil servants, working against delivering the Brexit we voted for. Now, you can't put a name to those people while they're working for the civil service. But my God, you watch from the minute they leave the civil service, not the minute, because they've got a little gap, but after they've left the civil service and they're no longer under any obligation and they start to reveal their own views. Many of the senior ones are actually in the House of Lords, but they don't have to be in the House of Lords for us to find out what they've thought all the time. And they are not supportive, and they're still not supportive. I still don't hear people saying, I didn't vote for Brexit, but I really want Britain to be a success as an independent country outside the European Union.
You don't hear
No, I
people
don't
say
hear.
that.
All I ever hear them say is, in order for Britain to be a success, we need to stay really close to the European Union and follow their rules. That's all I ever hear people say.
Well, I would say, Daniel, the evidence of anybody deliberately obstructing Brexit, I think we would have to get very specific and say, what is the evidence for it? And there's a really good point you raised about Sue Gray, OK? We need to get rid of the idea that senior people in the civil service don't have their own political views, or wherever, but it's how they don't let them interfere with the execution of their job.
Yeah, and we're not talking about that. What we're talking
you
about...
raised Sue Gray.
What
You did.
I raised Sue Gray, and that's not the point about Sue Gray. The point about Sue Gray is what confidence can you have in the civil service when somebody as senior as that, who also, because she had that special job in charge of ethics, has access to all sorts of private information about cabinet ministers, immediately goes off without any break and goes and works without any sort of cleansing purgatorial break, goes off and works for the leader of the opposition in the run-up to a general election. How can you, I mean, that makes it even worse, but at any point, how can you possibly trust civil servants when they are so blatant in displaying party political affiliation when they haven't even left the job? How long was she discussing this?
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask you. The last I looked, Keir Starmer won't be transparent about the timeline of conversations and all the rest of it. Why not?
Kevin,
I don't know the detail of when that first started, but I think it's all a distraction.
Why won't he tell us?
Well, I don't actually know why, and I don't know the detail. And I think I saw a slightly uncomfortable interview on somewhere.
Does it strike you as odd?
No. What strikes me as odd is this big brouhaha, OK, that Sue Gray, I mean, no wonder she wants to go work for the Labour Party. She's having to be delving around the cesspit of around the administration led by your old boss, Boris, and she probably wants to go somewhere with ethics and a bit of, decency and honesty around it. The fact that she may well have had political views all along, but she executed that job it was very difficult, and she did it in a fair way. And before it came out that she was going to go and work for Keir Starmer, people didn't criticise the Sue Gray report. They accepted it. But it's just, to me, it feels like a bit of a distraction.
You're making a different point.
I'm not.
You are. How can you trust the civil service? That's the point. How can you trust them to be politically neutral when she's that close to the Labour Party that she's in discussions for several months while still holding, I assume it was several months, we don't know, while holding a senior job, and proposes to go straight from one to the other, doesn't inform her terms and conditions mean she's subject to what's called the business appointment.
Yeah, it'll all get approved, Daniel.
She's meant to have told them when she was discussing the job. She didn't. She's gone. She still, yesterday, hadn't applied to them for permission to move. Yeah. I mean, this isn't ethical behaviour.
Are we seriously questioning Sue Gray's ethics compared to, for example, Boris Johnson?
Oh, yeah.
Are you?
Perfectly happy to do that. Yes,
well, we're going to do a whole segment
Boris
on Boris in a sec.
Boris Johnson is a principled man.
Is he?
He's a principled man, a scholar and a gentleman.